Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Thiruvan Saranai. Today we will be talking about the Dosa Citta. What are Dosa Citta? Hatred-rooted consciousness. So we're still talking about the 54 Kāmavachara Citta, the sense sphere consciousness. And among them, we are talking about the first group of Akusala Citta, the 12 unwholesome consciousness. And during our last two lessons, we spoke about the 8 Lobha Citta, and today we will be talking further about the 2 Dosa Citta, the 2 hatred-rooted consciousness. Now, the 12 Akusala Citta, the unwholesome consciousness, are associated with Hetu, roots, and they are called Akusala Hetu or unwholesome roots. Now, when it comes to the 2 Dosa Citta, these two or both of these Citta are associated with 2 Akusala Hetu, 2 unwholesome roots. These are Moha, delusion, and Dosa, hatred. Now here on this slide I have given the names of the 2 Dosa Citta, the hatred-rooted consciousness. And as before, we have given the terms first in Pali and they are color-coded in order for you to get an easier understanding of how these consciousness are named. So the first consciousness is called Domanassasahagataṃ, paṭighasampayuttaṃ, asankhārikaṃ. And the second one is Domanassasahagataṃ, paṭighasampayuttaṃ, sasankhārikaṃ. And as you can see, the first two words, the first word is in blue, the second word is in red. They are identical in both these citta, and the determining factor or the one which differentiates between the two citta is the third term, and that is whether or not it has prompting. So whether or not it's prompted is what determines which Dosa Citta occurs at a certain point in time. So Domanassa refers to accompanied by displeasure. Paṭighasampayuttaṃ means associated with aversion. Asankhārikaṃ means unprompted. And sasankhārikaṃ means prompted. Now remember, when does the Dosa Citta arise? A Dosa Citta always arises when one encounters an undesirable object. So it's important that the individual encounters an undesirable object, and it is only then that a Dosa Citta will arise. Now here on this slide we have given a simplified diagram to help you understand how these 2 Dosa Citta are named. So again, the first word Domanassasahagataṃ, meaning accompanied by displeasure. Paṭighasampayuttaṃ, meaning associated with aversion. Now those two terms are common to both Dosa Citta. And then the first Dosa Citta is asankhārikaṃ. It is unprompted. And the second Dosa Citta is sasankhārikaṃ. It is prompted. Now let's look at each of these terms one by one. The first term was Domanassasahagataṃ. What is Domanassa? Domanassa is the concomitant feeling or the Vedana that accompanies this Dosa Citta. Vedana is a cetasika, it is a mental factor, and you must remember that every single consciousness is accompanied by some sort of feeling, some sort of Vedana. This Vedana may be a bodily sensation or it may be a mental feeling. This Vedana may be pleasant, it may be painful or neutral. But here, when it comes to the Dosa Chitta, the feeling is always displeasure. It's always Domanassa. And Domanassa refers to an unpleasant mental feeling. It is not a bodily feeling. So it's always an unpleasant mental feeling. So when you combine the two words, Domanassa and Sahagata, what we end up as the meaning is accompanied by displeasure. So Domanassasahagataṃ means accompanied by displeasure. Now we come to the second word, paṭighasampayuttaṃ, associated with aversion. Now I told you before that the instance where a dosa chitta arises is whenever one encounters an undesirable object. So whenever you encounter an undesirable object, what kind of feeling would you get? You would feel a sense of resistance. You would want to reject that mental object. You would feel like destroying it. So there is some sort of striking against. So this striking against or this aversion is what is meant by paṭigha. And it is synonymous with the word dosa, hatred. So if you say paṭigha, aversion, or you say dosa, hatred, it means the same thing. Now we come to the word paṭighasampayuttaṃ. So here we have two words combined together to form this word paṭighasampayuttaṃ, and it means associated with aversion. Now the next thing you need to understand is that domanassa, displeasure, and paṭigha, aversion, do not mean the same thing. They're not the same thing. So they are two completely different things. They have two completely different meanings. Domanassa purely means or purely refers to the unpleasant feeling that one experiences when they come into contact with an undesirable object. However, paṭigha, aversion, is the mental attitude of being irritated, being not wanting to be in contact with that particular object. And finally, we come to saṅkhāra, presence or absence of saṅkhāra or prompting. The word saṅkhāra refers to prompting, inducement, instigation, and this prompt may be something that is imposed by another person, or it may originate from within one's own mind. And the means employed to prompt may be bodily, it may be verbal, or it may be purely mental, particularly when it comes to the prompt that originates from within one's own self. So the word asankhārikaṃ, so when you get the prefix a in front of saṅkhārikaṃ, it means unprompted. So it means that the consciousness arises spontaneously without any inducement, without any prompting. But sasankhārikaṃ means prompted. So there is prompting. The prompting may be by an external person, or it may be internally from within one's own self. Now let's try to understand these two consciousness further with the help of a simple example. The first citta, Domanassasahagataṃ, paṭighasampayuttaṃ, asankhārikaṃ, consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, unprompted. So here there's a man who is being murdered by another with hatred in a spontaneous fit of rage. So these two people are having a conversation. They suddenly break into an argument, and then out of hatred, one man murders the other man spontaneously. So he doesn't give any thought to it. He just grabs a knife and then just stabs this man. So here there was no prompting. It was a spontaneous act. Now let's look at the next citta. Domanassasahagataṃ, paṭighasampayuttaṃ, sasankhārikaṃ. Consciousness accompanied by displeasure, associated with aversion, prompted. So the difference between the two citta is whether or not the citta was prompted or not. So here we're talking about the prompted citta. Now this man on the right is about to murder the other man who's seated on the chair. So with hatred, this man puts some poison into this cup, and then he offers it to the man who's seated, and then this man is being murdered. So here there is a certain degree of premeditation. He plans it and then he carries out the task. So there is a lot of prompting generated during this whole process. The prompt may be his own mind, or it may be from somebody else. So someone else may tell him, pour some poison into that man's cup and kill him. So either way, this is an example for a prompted dosa citta. So with that, we come to the end of our brief introduction to the two dosa citta. During our next talk, we will discuss how the two dosa citta correlates with the Dasa akusala kamapatha, the unwholesome causes of action.